This program is brought to you by Newsworks in cooperation with Eau Claire County. This program is simulcast on WRFP-LP 101.9.
I call to order this meeting, the regular meeting of the County Board of Supervisors on this Tuesday, October 16th, 2018. Tonight's meeting will be broadcast on Valley Media Works, Charter Channel 994 on Thursday at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. following the meeting, WFRP-LP 101.9 FM, and online at valleymediaworks.org. Supervisors, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of reflection by Supervisor Bates. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sometimes you have to wonder about whether or not what we do really makes a difference in our communities. I have to reflect a little on something that happened not too long ago in one of my meetings. I've always thought that all children are beautiful, but some stand out in spite of having everything around them change. Like a newly minted penny, they shine. So it was with a special visitor at a recent Human Services Board meeting. She entered the room and her bright blue eyes quickly scanned every face at the table. Her demeanor and smile was captivating. No doubt she was staying close to her grandmother on purpose, and when they were directed to a place to sit, she found her place of comfort on her grandma's lap. Mom was close by, but Grandma was the person of choice. It was clear that she was uninhibited by her surroundings. Our vibrant little visitor, now 4 years old, had been born with a multitude of serious birth defects. She had already experienced a number of major surgeries meant to improve her quality of life, but many residuals of the defects remained and would permanently impact what the rest of her life would look like. The board listened to the role that Human Services had played in providing essential services to her and to her caregivers. Because of ongoing family issues, she was living with her grandmother. They shared what she called her own living room, where there was room for her to use her wheelchair. She proudly claimed that space as her own. Although crawling on the floor had sometimes been the most expedient way to get what she wanted, imagine what a difference that move to even a little independence had made. She transferred with ease to the seat of her wheelchair with arms that seemed less than able to do what they were meant to do. She maneuvered the vehicle that had brought her additional independence around the table and eagerly demonstrated her newly found independence along with commentary suitable for the occasion. It was clear that time, energy, love, and care were being invested, and her actions showed it. It is with all humility that we can claim a small part of helping to create that future for that child. Early intervention for children in need is an investment in the future of our communities. Each child is born with a gift. It's up to us as a society to care enough to help them find it. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Bates. Just so our members are aware, our microphone system is not working tonight, which means they will have to speak very loudly. I believe our request to speak buttons are working, so we'll be able to keep track of the request to speak, and our voting system is also working. So it's just our microphones that aren't. Speak very loudly when you have a choice. Next item on our agenda is roll call, which we can do with our keypads. So supervisors, please take your keypads in hand and indicate your presence. Or maybe not.
Ever since he let the city council use this room.
I'd like to blame this on the city, but it's not clear that it's the city. Attempting to start. Well, in the absence of, if this fails, we're going to do a roll call vote by voice.
Everybody at the same time?
No. Okay, try it again. Here we go. Thank you. That's it. So we have 27 members. We do have a quorum. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is approval of Journal of Proceedings of October the 2nd, 2018. Motion? Motion by Supervisor Wilkie, second by Supervisor Henning. Are there any changes, deletions, additions to the Journal of Proceedings? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by nay. It is unanimous. Thank you. We have no one signed up for public comment, so we will go on to reports to the county board under 2.04.320, beginning with our county administrator, Catherine Shaw. Can you hear me in the back?
Yep, absolutely.
Yes? Was that a yes, Supervisor
Yep.
McKinnon?
Yes, sir.
Your mic is not working.
Oh, just does podium mic. Oh, okay. This evening, I am going to very quickly give you a very high-level view of the 2019 recommended budget. We'll go over it very briefly, and then what you will be given are materials, and our team is still working to compile what is a budget book. We'll actually be presenting you with that budget book. It will actually be placed in your county mailbox in the county clerk's office early next week. Prior to that, we'll actually begin putting documents on our website as early as tomorrow. So we'll have the department detail as well as some of the summary information there for you so that if you want to start looking at materials, you're able to do so if you want to start looking before the actual printed copy arrives. You also have a document on your desk, which is the budget amendment form. And that is if you, as an individual supervisor, would like to propose an amendment, you can use that form. And I would also note that either Norm Kirk or his staff or my office would be willing to help any of you work through that process as we identify what it is you would like to do and how you may want to go about accomplishing that. So very briefly, and this presentation will also be placed on our website tomorrow. Our budget process is one that has many inputs, and I see that it's not particularly easy to read on the screen, but I will go through it very quickly. One thing that this graphic does not show is the interactive nature of our process, and I think that you as board members as well as staff understand that when you get into the committee meetings and you get into the finance and budget meetings and even the meetings that you as a group will hold, there's a lot of back and forth. There's questions, there's answers, there's a lot of thought given to how this budget is put together. And there is a significant amount of work that goes into this budget at many, many levels. And so this really starts to lay out some of those levels. Of course, we have our citizens and their stakeholder interest in this process. which is in regard to their desired level of service, the need that they have, and then their willingness to pay. And that is what you, as policymakers, are balancing on their behalf. You, as the board, provide vision and mission and strategic direction, the budget policies and priorities, and then you make that final decision on what and at what cost you will be providing service. From the county administrator standpoint, the county administrator is essentially a collector of the submitted budgets, and we work together as staff to collaborate around solutions, because I think that everyone here recalls when you're in your committee meetings what some of those discussions were around. Expenditures that are going up at rates that don't match the revenues. And so you're going to see some comments later on that I'll give a little bit of explanation to. It just says cost to continue, but in reality it was, how do you begin to even document the fact that a department will continue on, they'll continue to provide service, but there are still deficits. And so that is one of the points that I'll be making as we get a little bit further on. Oversight committees, you've all worked at your oversight committee level with the staff, and your departmental staff are doing the how. How do they design the programs and then implement the policy as set forth? They look at the trends so that we're making evidence-based decisions on the trends that we know are happening, and they're strategic in nature, so that not only will this budget meet our needs for 2019, but it sets the stage for future budgets. This is a very, very busy screen, but there's a lot of good information on here. And it is information that does inform our process. Our values are over on the left-hand side. And then to the right, we actually have our strategic plan. You will see many elements of that strategic plan articulated in the department-specific budgets, where they reference back to how the work that they are doing fulfills that strategic plan. The Finance and Budget Committee, as they made their recommendations and made choices, also looked back at the strategic plan and looked at how they would set that strategic direction based on input from the board. What we tried to do with this presentation is to just give, again, a very high-level summary. So you have the different areas in which all of our services are bundled. And this is actually done by the state. They create these different areas for us to put together our different cost areas, and then it can be compared across the state for all those different areas. And so with that context in mind, what we have done is summarize the department or program area, just the high-level ones, the bigger picture, and then we've put in the 2019 budget impact a couple of phrases that indicate what the policy direction is. You will get detailed financial information in the next few days from the finance department. So this is not meant to replace any of that. It's simply meant to give you that high level. Earlier I talked about that cost to continue, so even the first one here where you see child support. 2/3 of their funding comes from the state. The funding that they're receiving this year is going to be cost to continue. What that means is they're going to continue to serve the number of cases that come through the door, and most likely the increasing number of cases with their existing resources. And our cost to continue in that case would be supplies, services, the cost of living increase or pay increases, and increased cost for health insurance that each one of our areas are experiencing. So that's what cost to continue means. It does not necessarily mean, and I want to be very clear about this, that it is the ultimate desired end state. It means that we can continue to provide the service, but there are some give and take with that in each area. So you'll find all of that detail identified as part of the documents that are in the department specific information. So you'll want to take some time to dig into those a little bit. And so for each one of those different cost centers or areas of interest, health and human services, we've taken and put the respective departments and the budgetary impact in there. And I am not going to read these screens for you. I will allow you to do that. But there is just a very brief indication, for instance, highway. They had flat levy for operations. They're doing some reorganization to achieve that. The vehicle registration fee is going to be used this year, as well as bonding to continue to improve our roads. And the capital request includes a design for a new highway structure. So that is how you'll see this, and again, it goes through our public safety, judicial, conservation and economic development, leisure and education, and general government. And of course, our general government is, in many cases, the behind-the-scenes support that supports all of those direct service initiatives that we, the county, do. And so this gives you the overview. We included as well the operations and capital sources graphic again. And I think that this helps because, especially if it's your first budget, one of the things that you're going to be looking at is department-specific budgets that are actually feeding into the operations budget. Along with that, you'll also see capital summaries that are included. And our typical funding sources for our capital, as you see here, are usually bonding or debt and fund balance. And actually, this needs to be upgraded a little bit because we need to add the vehicle registration fee to that for highway. But you can see the difference in how we use the funds and what qualifies as capital. Those are our long-term investments, whether it's real property or infrastructure, and our operations, of course, are day-to-day. So you can use this as you're looking through that budget document to help orient yourself and think about the budget as a whole. The summary slide gives you a very brief glance at exactly what this budget is looking like. It is $113 million total budget. $9.8 million of that is our capital budget. $34 million of that is our property tax levy increase. And the levy rate is actually $4.07 per $1,000 of property value. You will note that that is a decrease of 3 cents per thousand. I challenge you to find that on your property tax bill. But it is a decline on your property tax bill, and that is because of the change in equalized valuation. And so when they construct the numbers on the mill rate, what constructs that is you take the equalized value, but we have to back into it because we've got levy rate limits, so we back into the number that we can actually levy. And so the equalized value is increasing at a faster rate than our expenditures, or what we are allowed to expend, and that is why you see the decrease in that mill rate. 21% of the average tax bill is county services. The others are the other overlying taxing jurisdictions, school districts. The county has approximately 595 FTE employees, and we did include a 1% cost of living adjustment. And I specifically highlighted that because as we continue to work forward in future years, we are going to have to give serious attention to our compensation philosophy and approach. The budget amendments, I did note that they are on your desk. And if any of you have any questions about that, again, any of our staff would be happy to help you with that and help you identify what it is you want to do and how you may want to go about filling out this form. Or I would also say, even if you don't want to propose an amendment, if you have any questions, any one of our department managers would be delighted to speak to you about their budget and what they're thinking and what they're proposing, as well as any staff members. So if you have questions about the numbers or the strategy or the trends, do not hesitate to reach out. Jerry, did you have a question?
Yeah, on this form, that first sentence there doesn't make sense to me. To amend the 2019 proposed budget as recommended by Finance and Budget, that doesn't make sense. Oh, okay, now I see how you're reading it. It's written. I originally was reading that somehow or another that had to go through budget and finance. Their amendment, it does not.
No,
I
sir.
get it now. Okay.
Any other questions?
Well, thank you.
Just a reminder, use your request to speak button. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
The next item on our agenda is presentation by Ayers and Associates regarding issuance and sale of $10 million general obligations promissory notes. Mr. Lentz is here from Ayers and Associates, and our finance director stands in reserve. Excuse me, Supervisor Cronk.
I didn't know when it was appropriate because I should have pressed my button during the public comment. I didn't sign up to speak during public comment, but I just.
Well, ordinarily you wouldn't.
Okay, just.
You're not part of the public.
I noticed like at other times, and I don't know when they do it in the meeting, if people have information about an upcoming event. or
That's
maybe-
under announcements.
Okay.
That would be under member 7,
Okay,
and we'll come to that.
I'll press my button now. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Good evening, supervisors. Wanted to update you on the results of the note sale that we had earlier today. So dovetail nicely into what Catherine talked about in terms of building elements of the budget, as debt is certainly an important component of that. Just wanted to update you though on a couple things before talking specifically about the results of today's sale. Between the last time I was here, we, Ellers, worked with county staff to complete what is called the official statement, and I believe county supervisors received this, I think electronically, maybe a hard copy of it, I'm not sure. But this document is the document that goes out to investors, both locally as well as nationwide, and they are using this information to formulate their bids on the notes that were out for sale today. Would also mention the other use of the document is for updating the county's bond rating. And if I could have everyone go to the sale report, and if I didn't mess it up, I put one on everybody's spots around the group here. If you go in one page, you'll see on the top of the page it says Moody's Investor Service. This is the formal rating report that they have provided us following a conference call that Catherine, Norb, and Amy and myself participated in a couple of weeks ago. What we do is we prepare the information, including the official statement, provide them some other background information regarding the county finances and budget and otherwise. And then through the back and forth of the conference call, they get their questions answered, and then they go through a committee process that ends up giving us back a rating. I'm happy to note that where they have placed us is where we discussed at the last meeting. They have maintained the county's rating at a AA1 level, which is a fantastic rating. It is just one below the AAA level, as we talked about. A lot of the elements that would have you at the AAA are not things that you have direct control over. And in fact, if you look at the first page here, what I like to highlight, credit strengths, credit challenges. They have a number of strengths there that they note, and that's very common for a AA1 rated community. And I also like that they include factors that would lead to an upgrade and to a downgrade. So just briefly on the upgrade, positive financial results leading to material increases in reserves. You'll note that they do credit you on having a good, strong reserve right now, even a better one. There's certainly challenges in building to even a higher reserve, but that is one element that could lead to an upgrade. The one, as I mentioned, things that aren't really directly in the county board's control is significant expansion of the county's tax base and economy. Certainly, you as elected officials can put together policies that encourage that sort of activity, but it isn't things that you can make happen. And pure size and tax base are elements that lead to potentially to a higher rating. And as I mentioned, that's not something that you have direct control over. As well as improved resident wealth and income. Another factor they take into account is just what they're looking at ultimately is the ability for you guys to pay the debt that you issue. A big component of that is the people who pay the taxes to you, their ability to pay taxes. So wealth, of course, is a big element in that. More in your control is the factors that could lead to a downgrade. Growth in debt and pension. Your vehicle registration fee was one element trying to stem, at least to some degree, the increase in debt. But we've shown them some long-term plans on looking at the county's CIP, trying to give them comfort as to the planning behind future debt issues of the county. The second one, probably the most important, marked declines in liquidity or reserve. And that basically is your savings account. If that gets depleted, your financial liquidity becomes less, and you're not as strong financially in their eyes. So it's something certainly to consider. And lastly, deterioration of the county's tax base and resident wealth and income. We've seen, in fact, the reverse of that recently, and you'll see that in the report, that the growth in the county is viewed as a credit strength of the county. So again, AA1, fantastic rating, and certainly something for the county to be proud of. So with that in mind, if I can have you turn 4 pages back to the one titled Bid Tabulation. We put out for bid the $10 million in general obligation promissory notes at 10:30 this morning, with the bidders being aware that the county's AA1 rating had been affirmed. And if you page through the next page and a half, you'll see the bids that we received at or before 10:30. The best bid was from Baird out of Milwaukee with a true interest rate, and that is the rate that we compare the bids to determine who has the lowest interest rate of approximately 2.8%. And as you page through and look at the other bids, you'll see that the bidding was very competitive. The next couple bids just over that 2.8, and the highest bid was just under 3%. So certainly very competitive bidding. Local bidders, you'll see those, but as well as bidders from parts quite a ways from Eau Claire County, including Memphis, Tennessee, and Charlotte, North Carolina. So again, we like to see that competitive bidding, the 2.8%. I did also want to note for you on the back page a quick comparison between what we had talked about in the pre-sale report that I discussed with you a couple of weeks ago. In the middle of the page, you'll see interest rates, and we'll have in that section final and pre-sale. With the pre-sale, we were looking at a true interest cost or rate of about 3.09, 3.1% was our estimate at that point. And again, with the results today, we're at that 2.8% level. Net interest and principal, also listed there, was estimated at about $11,575,000 to pay back the $10 million in principal plus interest over the next 10 years. And the results with a little bit lower interest cost today are $11,533,000. So very pleased to see the interest in the county's debt being offered today. Very pleased with the bids and the results at the 2.8%. What would be needed of the county board this evening is your bond counsel, Quarles and Brady, prepared the resolution. The resolution, I think you might have received a draft. The only change is now the bid results from the winning bid from Baird are now included in the resolution. So approval of the resolution by the county board locks in the rates and terms as they have been bid by Baird today. One other element I'll mention that came up in the finance committee, we had a brief meeting before to have the finance committee review the results. The question was asked, we issued debt last year. What was the interest rate last year? Was I think we issued $9,750,000 last year as compared to this year. So 2.8% last year, not to end on a sour note, but last year was 1.8%. So most of that is just the economy and interest rates, as you've probably seen in the newspaper, on the radio, on TV, have gone up. 2.8% for 10 years is still a very good rate, but last year was an exceptional rate at the 1.8%. From my standpoint, we would certainly recommend accepting the bid from Baird and approving the resolution put together by bond counsel. But I'd be happy to answer any questions, or if there are any for the finance committee as a whole, I'm sure Norm would be happy to answer those as well.
I see no request to speak. Thank you, Mr. Spencer. We'll take this matter, Supervisor Henning.
I make a motion to approve.
The bond sale will come up in regular
This is just a
agenda
report.
later. This is
Oh,
information,
okay.
so I will call on you first. You have in your packet the written reports on the contingency fund and the third quarter overtime comp time report. Are there any questions regarding those reports? Thank you. The next item on our agenda is presentation of petitions, claims, and communications. We have received a rezoning request in case you haven't heard it. That will go on to our next agenda. Are there other announcements to be made now? Supervisor McKinney, followed by Supervisor Crockett. Supervisor McKinney.
As
speak loudly,
President
please.
Jonah, and acknowledging the strong working relationship that we have with the City County Health Department, I'd like to invite you all to our 11th anniversary celebration this coming Sunday, October 21st, 4 o'clock, the Eau Claire Children's Theater on Oxford. The music and food and just a really nice overview of what Jonah's been involved in this past year. You can get a ticket online or at the door. You can tell them Supervisor McKinney sent you, but they're still going to want $30 because it is a fundraiser. Hope I see you all there.
Thank you. Supervisor Cronk, followed by Supervisor DeLuca.
I just wanted to mention that I attended a training this past weekend with the Washington County Community Circles process, and they have, I actually attended a training with one of the judges that started this process and for clients that came into this courtroom in this process. And they've been around for 20 years now. And just to let you know briefly, they are a community-directed process, mostly commonly used for addressing issues surrounding local incidents of crime. Circles in Washington County are created in partnership with the justice system and create a respectful space to support victims, develop sentencing agreements for clients, and empower all interested community members to work toward preventing future occurrences of crime. Cases that are brought forward go through several steps, which a lot of this information is on the website if you're interested, but I think one of the main things is circles derive their strength from community participation and strong community support results in lower recidivism of clients who go through the circle process. So much so that people 10 years out have a 74% conviction-free rate. There's no cost to the county budget. It's all run by volunteers. In 2017, there were 1,962 volunteers that supported this process. Now I'm one of the two, along with I think 5 law students and 2 criminal justice students over the weekends. And as far as the event, they do have, they did a video for Minnesota Public TV, which is Channel 10 for our local cable, and they will be showing that video this coming Friday the 19th at 5:30 in the morning, 11:30 in the morning, 5:30 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. So it's a really, really good video that just kind of describes everything, and Judge Scherer is in that video. And there's been a couple of modifications since the video was doing several years ago to the process, but it's a really positive community-based program that really has a lot of support. So I think that's something that the community can take a look at.
Thank you. Supervisor DeLuca.
I have 2 announcements. Just to let you know, if you are a member of Wisconsin Credit Union, they are currently selling candy bars to support Eau Claire 4-H. And if you're anywhere else in the state, they are supporting all ag types of promotions, education, so forth. I also sent you an invitation to Beaver Creek's celebrating the Chippewa River Conference, which is coming up on Saturday, October 27th. And the keynote speaker is Raj Shukla. He developed education programs for Vice President Gore's Climate Reality Project. He's trained elected officials how to effectively mobilize resources. He has organized businesses to invest in inner city neighborhoods and currently serves as chair of the Sustainable Madison Committee, which works to realize a community's social and environmental aspirations. It's a great day. They serve lunch, and you can go online and register. I did send some information of the breakout sessions as well as the times, so come and join us. Supervisor Leary has already connected with me, and the two of ours are going, so come and join us. Thanks.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is first reading of ordinances by committees, file 70.
To repeal and recreate section 2.05.611 of the code, ADRC Subcommittee on Older Americans Act program.
This item will go on to our next meeting agenda. The next item on our agenda is section 10, reports of standing committees, commissions, and boards under 2.04.160, and second reading of ordinances beginning with file 68.
Supporting an increase in county child support funding.
This is a resolution, so we will be voting on this tonight. Could we have a motion? A motion by Supervisor Leary, a second by Supervisor Wilkie. Explanation, Supervisor Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you're all aware, the importance of child support certainly has a great deal to do with the economic security of children. Obviously, the role that it plays starts sometimes with establishing paternity and includes actually child support and health insurance for children that are sort of left adrift when things are not well within a relationship or an individual has gone through a separation. If we look at why this request from the state for additional funding is so important, in our own child support agency, in 2017, they collected almost $16 million in funds to help support children. So far this year, they've collected 10 million, in fact, almost 11 million in funds for that purpose. 132,000 plus of that money went to the Department of Human Services to sort of pick up holes where it turns out the support didn't come through for specific children. Now, what is this request for? It's for 1.5 million for each year in 2019 and 2000 through actually the beginning of 2021, a 2-year period. So the request is for $3 million. 95% of that will go directly to families. And actually 5% of the monies collected go to the Department of Community Services for economic support to children. For each dollar that we invest in the state of Wisconsin for child support, we get $6.76 in return. And that also does something for us on a federal level. For every dollar that we invest, actually on a state level, it's matched by $2 from the federal government. The significance of the monies that we're asking for really makes the difference between keeping our child support agency funding to a degree that they can keep up with the demands of that particular job. So hopefully this will be something you can support and help us to keep on track with the fine record that we have in the state of Wisconsin of collecting child support and providing economic security for children. I urge your support.
Thank you. Supervisor Pagonis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also urge everyone's support. When Finance and Budget met with Megan Fluff, who's now the director of the Child Support Agency, she stated that each child support specialist is handling approximately 900 cases. So to try and reduce some of the pressure on each specialist, she is assuming cases, and Josie LaLiberty, who we see every year for the scholarships,
Supervisor Morris.
Yes, I'm sorry, but because I'm new here, I really don't understand, and could somebody explain to me exactly what I'm voting on? Am I voting on an intention to give $3 million out of our budget to child support? Are we asking the state to give us this money? What are we asking?
This is a resolution directed to the state legislator.
Good, we want money from them.
Yeah.
Correct.
Thank you very much, that's what I want to know. I want to make sure.
Having heard that, please take your keypads in hand and vote accordingly. Supervisor, thank you. That is 28 and one absent. That is unanimous. Thank you. The next item on our agenda comes from the Committee on Human Resources, file 48.
Amending policy 519 of the Oak Park County Human Resources Employee Policy Manual.
I'm not going to ask for a motion on this, but an explanation from Supervisor Beckfield regarding this item.
In the committee, we made a decision to table it for a later date, and we'll bring it back forth at that time.
Excuse me, that's in the Committee on Administration. This is Committee on Human Resources.
So we tabled it
Oh,
temporarily for there.
Excuse me, sorry.
So
This item will remain
indefinitely.
in suspension indefinitely until we call it back again.
Correct.
No, it doesn't need to say something. No, it doesn't come forward. I don't think. There's no motion. No, there's no motion. Correct? There is no motion. The next item comes from Committee on Finance and Budget, file number 60, which is second reading.
This ordinance changes fees in the Eau Claire County Code in several departments. I do want to just mention that there is a correction on the fact sheet in sections 2, 3, and 4, and they had typed the year 2019 for the committee, or Judiciary and Law Committee is when they acted, it's actually 2018.
Okay, with that typographical correction. Motion. Supervisor Pagonis. Second, Supervisor Miller. Explanation, Supervisor Pagonis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is something we actually go through annually to look at our fee schedules. Each department looks at it, takes it to the oversight committee. I think the resolution here is a little bit more descriptive than the fact sheet. It gives you more specifics as to what fee is actually being increased and the amount that's being increased. So if you have any questions about the specific fees, the fact sheet doesn't really review it. The only other thing of note on this is that the state no longer has domestic partnerships, so that is being taken out of the fee schedule because it's not something we can do any longer. But otherwise, this is just looking at our standard fees, and the departments that felt that they could increase them took it to their oversight committee, and this is what has been approved by the oversight committee and then subsequently approved by finance and budget.
Questions or discussion? Supervisor Buchanan.
Yes, so just to clarify from that explanation, the reason why we're taking out the domestic partner benefit is not because the marriage equality passed, but because the state will not allow us to continue this proposal? Or-
No, because the marriage equality passed, so we no longer do domestic partnerships.
Okay, across the state, or just?
Anyway, that law doesn't have, it's been repealed because of this ordinance.
Any other questions or discussion? I see none. Supervisors, please take your keypads in hand and vote. Supervisor Beckfield. Thank you. Unanimous, thank you. The Next item on our agenda is file number 73.
This is a resolution awarding the sale of $10 million general obligation promissory notes, Series 2018A.
This is a resolution. Supervisor Henning.
I'll move approval.
We
Again.
have a motion
Again.
and a second by Supervisor Dunning. Are there any questions? Is there any discussion? I see no request to speak. Therefore, please take your keypads in hand. We are voting on file 73. Number 62, the motion passes. The next item is file number 72.
Authorizing payment to vouchers over $10,000 issued during the month of September 2018.
Motion, Supervisor Cronk, second, Supervisor Gatlin. I don't know that we need an explanation, however, I'm sure Supervisor Burgos can provide that. This is our usual motion. Are there any questions or any discussion regarding this motion? I see none. Please take your keypads in hand and vote on file 72, authorizing payment of vouchers. Okay. 27 to 1, the motion passes. Thank you. The next item on our agenda comes from the Aging and Disability Resource Board, file 74.
Approving the 2019-2021 County Plan on Aging and authorizing the County Board Chair and the Chair of the Aging and Disability Resource Center Board to execute said plan on behalf of Eau Claire County. And on line 7, where it says how many pages is consist in this plan, there's 2 X's there, it's actually 43 pages.
This item is a resolution, therefore we vote on this evening. So I will call for a motion regarding this item. Supervisor Bourbois, second by Supervisor Gatlin. Any questions or discussion regarding this item? I see none. Oh, sorry. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. I just ran rampant over here.
I know the Brewers are playing short.
Clearly you know that I don't prepare. And then Supervisor Miller for explanation, with apologies.
Oh, that's all. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just thought very briefly I would explain, especially for the benefit of the newer board members. Every 3 years, the ADRC has to submit a plan to the state and feds that addresses what they envision are services, plans, programs that they will provide to seniors over those next 3 years. To accomplish this, the staff held numerous listening sessions last spring, both with, throughout the county, with general public members in attendance to professionals who work in the field of services for seniors. You saw just the general overview in your packet. They have some lofty goals that they have established. They don't have to get them all done right now, but they're going to gradually work on them. The board, even ADRC board, questioned whether it was almost biting off more than they could chew. And Jennifer did assure us that as the staff sat down together, they worked out what they thought was feasible and what they could accomplish. And even if they don't in 3 years, but they have attempted to make some effort on one of the goals or the other, you know, yeah, that's fine. But this all goes back to gathering and gaining the funding to continue operations. So basically, I don't need to go beyond all of that. As I said, you can see some of those goals are kind of straightforward, and some are going to take a little bit more time. In particular, the biggest one that seemed to surface everywhere was how to combat the loneliness and isolation of the elders in our community. So that is going to be a huge focus area over the next 3 years. But with that, I'll leave it at that, and unless there are any questions, I just wanted people to understand what the premise of this was all about.
Supervisor Russell.
I was just wondering if there's a date for the Aging Advocacy Day, to increase board member attendance?
Yes, it's always May, about May 15th of each year in Madison. Yep.
Any other questions, any other discussion? This is a reminder to you, this is a resolution, so we are voting on it tonight. Please take your keypads in hand and vote on file 74. That is 28-0. That passes unanimously. Thank you. The next item on our agenda are appointments. We have 3 appointments to do that are listed on your agenda. We're going to take them all together in one motion. Yes.
An appointment of Richard Garcia to the Housing Authority. Appointment of Carrie Strode and Dr. Don Bordeaux to the Board of Health.
Motion by Supervisor Leary, second by Supervisor Bates. I don't know if we need an explanation here. I'm going to assume that an explanation is not necessary. Are there any questions regarding these appointments? I see none. Supervisors, please take your keypads to hand and vote on these 3 appointments. That's 28 yes, unanimous vote. Thank you very much. We have reached the end of our agenda. We are adjourned.
This program was brought to you by a cooperation between Newsworks and Eau Claire County. Newsworks is made possible by continuing community support. If you would like to volunteer or make a donation, please contact us via phone at 715-839-5067 or online at valleymediaworks.org.